Welcome back. This is the next episode of fall autumn landscape painting. It is a good size canvas measuring 40 by 50 inches. It's painted in acrylics. And so far I'm using brushes, and let's see, next step. So I'm looking at the background. So there was underpainting, that kind of a purple, blue, gray, that's making the orange and the brown and the red stand out really well. Blue and orange color contrast, yellow and purple color contrast works really well. And I got this generally blocked in next layer where there's already some dark masses and some mid-tone masses, and major light and dark and color information is distributed and indicated and started. So here I go and start placing the smaller elements in, such as the shapes of the trees. When I set out to paint in the type of method that I've been educated in, and the kind of strategy that I take mentally, so my thinking is not to really paint trees or think of this as like a forest, or what are those, leaves or grass or trees. No, for the longest time I am asked to look at these as just painted shapes, just verticals of different size and positioned at different angles. They are representing rhythm, visual dynamics, the rhythmic bars, the rhythmic verticals of the dark elements that are playing an important role in the visual sense, in the painting. So I am viewing and thinking about my work as an abstract. I'm calculating not the trees or the grass or the leaves or whatever. I'm calculating masses of light and dark, their positioning, vertical, horizontal, their diverse shapes and sizes that attribute to dynamic, rhythmic image. So that's what I'm actually thinking when I'm painting these so-called trees. For the longest time, I will be thinking about this painting in these terms of purely visual art terms, purely painting terms. And so I use just black straight out of the container, and I cut it really fairly thin with water so that I can move it around, like draw like ink, like I'm using a soft pointy watercolor brush, and I am really with great ease just splashing, just placing these elements right into the picture plane, right into my painting. I have a photograph that I'm looking at, And it doesn't look anything like the painting, by the way. It's just like a photo of like an actual place that I like this photo, and I am gathering some information from it. Like I like to have some elements like these, trees in the foreground would be wider and more visible, and then there will be mid-ground elements, and there would be next shelf, like next area of further back mid-ground, and then there's gonna be some on the far back that are thinner and less prominent as elements, those vertical elements. And I am kind of indicating maybe they will have these branches, some diagonals are starting to come in as well. I am staying away from like fine detail. For the longest time, it is the strategy and the way of thinking when painting in this way is to stay really kind of loose and general, and move the effort around as efficiently as possible, so that a layer can get placed all in one go. Like, so I'm gonna spend an hour or two here and do just this one step of placing the verticals, whatever, the trees, and I'll just stay with that. Or this is not gonna take an hour, just that part won't, but today I'll spend a lot more than an hour just doing painting in my studio. And so the reason for not finishing any corner or not having any highlights or details just yet, it is to keep a balance, like the even scale, kind of, so that there's a lot of room for improving, and also so that like every area gets some energy invested in it. So all together, the picture often appears it looks like it's almost finished at any stage. That was part of the education that I received. It's each part, each layer, each step is so efficient and so impressive that the painting could look finished at any one of these essential steps. It's just that with the more advanced that I'm getting, the more diverse and in-depth I can think of these steps. I can put in like I become a lot more attentive and a lot more proficient, and so the product of that, like the image, is a lot more complex just with the experience. So yes, I can leave it just like that, but no, there's lots of more steps I can take, and then I can also push my own boundaries with how impressive of a painting, or how much I progressed and improved in my own process. So I want to see that. I love growth. So once all of these trees are in, or the verticals, now I'm going back to looking at how can I connect the shadows underneath and all of the information behind or in between the elements. So all the background, it's still not adjusted. It's just previous layer is showing right through. It might be it could be a lot more worked, a lot more in depth. I can bring so much more information in, And that information is more complex mixtures of the dark greens within the shadows, in between the trees, running horizontally on the floor. Then I'm also looking forward to getting some color complexity, more diverse variations of green, red, orange, gray, and the mixtures between all of these colors that I just mentioned, so that I'm wanting a rich and complex, colorful surface. I am wanting to show vivid and expressive and full color capacity of what I am representing. This is like an impression of a landscape. Well, like color. So using color, becoming really diverse about using color, mixing, applying. So I'm going back to all of these surfaces in between the elements, in between the trees. I am going into how I'm thinking is, let's say if I have a darker area set up, but then it's kind of disappearing and it's not dark enough beside it, then I'll add some there. It's like I'm visually balancing and continuing the efforts that way. And let's take a look at how I am going about this and resolving. I'm always moving throughout the entirety of the canvas. I'm not getting too caught up in any one area with intent to finish. My goal is to introduce richness of variations within those darker areas, within the greenery and within the floor and within the shadow information. I rinse the brush from time to time just so that I get a shot at having like a cleaner mixture of color. It's possible to muddy everything up really quickly if I don't keep some control over the mixtures. I'm listening to music and sometimes to podcasts while I paint. It's pretty nice. There's a lot of social distancing and different protocols out there. I'm in Canada, in Toronto, in Ontario, but it doesn't really affect me that much, and no one around me is sick. And I have elderly parents around. It's kind of peaceful here, and it's really nice to just stay at home and do lots of painting. It's really therapeutic. I think I'm using this for therapy. And I also want to incorporate tutorial and make it all available to you guys. It's really a good idea. I've been meaning to do this for a long time, and I've done it in the past with some benefits to my overall process. Well, let's get into the let's get into the trees now. The trees, those verticals, they are so dark and they're so similar, and they're just initiated, they're just started. But I take a lighter gray, lighter purples, subtle, like not too colorful, but lighter tones of that to these elements, to the trees, to kind of lighten them, to knock down the contrast, to soften and to cool the elements in terms of color down a little. So you are seeing me bringing these slightly lighter areas within the trees. And this is starting to become a little less broad and a little more focused. And here it's good to slow down and to think and to aim well and to have a brush that can do this kind of work out a good way of doing this. And then let's go into a close-up action of this. I am taking each element of the tree now, and I am shaping each of these trees really carefully with a lighter neutral color from the outside. I am starting to build more organized contour of each one of these objects. And then I am also bringing other color information to the negative space, the space behind the objects. There are greens, mid-tone and fairly neutral, greens, gray, various gray with addition of red, yellow, green, purple. The gray could be with some color information. And so I'm really carefully now going to arrange all of these trees to lose the roughness of the initial painted, like briefly painted roughness, and now it is starting to gain the particularity of the contour. I love doing this work. It's like, oh, the tree trunk has got so many grooves and changes of angles. Let's it's a symphony. Let's get into this. I'm a little bit passionate about my work. Can you blame me? Let's next zoom onto the ground area of the painting, whatever that represents the ground, the lower portion, and let's go into these lighter masses. So it's not masses, all of this is one mass. So shadow is all en masse, it's all interconnected. There is a mid-tone that serves as a transition from shadow, and then there's a mass of light. There's light, and it's not, there's no separation. It all kind of follows consistently en masse as one unit. It gets interrupted here and there, but it is a unit of light throughout the entirety of the painting. So I am starting to place more particularly through observation. I'm finding where these shapes of light reside, and I am placing them in, and I am embedding diverse movement and dynamic movement into the kinds of shapes that I'm making with paint and brush. And really think, what are we seeing when we're painting these patches of light? Like, what are their abstract silhouette shapes? And that's what I am after for the longest time, is just if I am clever enough, if I am observant enough, I will find these really cool shapes to paint. And there they are. Beginning of the mass of light to starting to appear everywhere. I am also starting to drop some splashes of darker red and some leaves and foliage that's gonna be in front of the trees. Yeah, there's really a lot that's coming in at this point, and I'm showing you my progress up to this point, and there's been quite a bit of new additions there. And it's been transforming, and it's pretty neat how it's coming along. I'm excited about this new painting. I am like, I don't know if I can put down the brushes today. I get pretty addictive when I'm just like, whoa, I want to paint more. Let's drink water, listen to podcast, and paint. Well, thanks guys, and I'll see you soon.